Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Happy Tuesday. I've got Bing Bong here today. Bing Bong is only 4, but he is an old man in every way. Say good morning. Anyway, we are just after the show walking out and getting on the bus in Fronteras. So we're going on a 4-week trip around the country. We're going to New Mexico, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, New York, the Smoky Mountains. I don't know which state we're staying in, and then home. And we're stopping at Mexican consulates along the way to host Bus Sin Fronteras events. It's going to be a total adventure. So if you're not following El Bus Sin Fronteras on Instagram, go and follow. We'll be doing a lot of stuff there. And as these things go, we were set to go yesterday, but the AC broke on the bus. So we had to spend the day finding a new unit. And then our mechanic, bless him, stayed up literally all night long. Like I woke up at 3 a.m. and looked outside and he was out there working on getting this new AC unit installed. So fingers crossed, as soon as the show is over, we're going to get on the road and take you guys with us. I'll be doing the live show on Thursday on the road. We'll be somewhere in West Texas or New Mexico. So anyway, that's happening. That's exciting. On other good news, yesterday, one of our clients, a woman named Karen, who's an asylum seeker from Central America, she had an ICE check-in. She's a pro bono client with a lot of support from the community. And she had 17 volunteers accompany her to her check-in. And everything went smoothly, no issues. She didn't even have to go back. Actually, they just gave her a new reporting date. And so how great that the community came together for her. How sad that was even necessary or thought of, that someone would have to take a whole army of people with them to a routine ICE check-in. She's a single mom. Her boys were at home waiting for her. If you guys are interested in the ICE check-in accompaniment project, one of my closest friends, Trinity, is launching. She's in between jobs right now, and she is launching a nonprofit. She's real techie, and she's doing this project to connect volunteers with immigrants who needs check-ins, and the attorneys will be the ones that make the connection. So I'll be reaching out to the legal community about this, but Trinity's getting clergy signing up and veterans groups signing up so that we'll be able to do more accompaniment. And like yesterday, I did a post about Karen and how everything went well. And there were some comments or feedback from people about like, I want to do this too. So I'll be talking more about Trinity's project. It's called Contigo Conmigo, or With Me With You. And it's going to be a whole, project to get people accompanied to their ICE check-ins. So more on that. I see your questions coming in. Thank you so much. I'll get to them. Let me just do a quick update with y'all on the news of the week. We've got a legal challenge to Trump's Head Start policy. So Head Start is an early childhood program for low-income people that provides nutrition, health care, and education to little kiddos, like preschool age kiddos who are from low income. Of course, the Trump administration wants to do immigration status check for these toddlers before they get any nutrition help. So that has been challenged by more than 20 Democratic attorneys general. So we'll be following that lawsuit. I anticipate that they will succeed. And, who knows what it's going to look like? Is it going to be an injunction? Now that we've got this whole rule about no nationwide injunctions, only classes, maybe it'll take a little longer and we'll see a class certification. Things are going to be different now in federal litigation. We also have ICE, of course, has way more budget now under the budget bill that was passed by Congress. So they are emboldened to do more enforcement actions. Tom Homan, just in the last couple of days, has announced that ICE will be going even more hard on sanctuary cities. Denver, Chicago, New York, Boston, Los Angeles are the big 5 on the list of sanctuary cities. And, we saw the raids in MacArthur Park and the raids on the farms. So stuff like that will start to occur in more of these sanctuary cities. The end. That's what's going to be happening. So if you live in a sanctuary city, I would say even more reason to do what we always talk about, which is consult with an immigration lawyer, find out what benefits you're eligible for, have a safety plan, figure out who would pick up the kids if one of the parents were arrested. My website, abogadakate.com, has all of the resources that we've created for people. There's a 20-page safety planning packet you can download. It has a list of documents to gather and have safely in one location. It has the power of attorney to give permission to people to pick up the kids. So we have all of that for you. We, of course, are still doing free consultations virtually around the 50 United States. We've gotten a lot of people coming in from all over the country needing help. So that message has really gone out into the community, which is great. Thank you for those of you who have shared that. We are also relaunching a program that we did during the first Trump administration called Luz en el Camino, or Light on the Pathway. This is a program where we're offering legal service, legal protection to people who don't qualify for some kind of benefit, like a VAWA or U visa or T visa. Maybe you're not eligible for something right now, but you still want to have protection and a relationship with an attorney. Well, that's what this program is about, where we'll give you a letter of representation that says you are our client. We'll give you a list of documents and we will hold them for you when you get them to us so that we could act quickly if you get detained. We'll give you a VIP line so that you can talk to an attorney if there are any changes or you have any questions in your life. And we'll be sending out regular updates to you on changes in policy and notifications that you need to know about. So we're launching that program. It's very close to being ready. So if you think I'm not eligible for anything, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll put you on the interest list for the Luz en el Camino program. Let's see, what else? Todd Lyons is the director of ICE. So the Department of Homeland Security is an umbrella agency, and ICE is one of the agencies within DHS. So Tom Homan is the border czar. Kristi Noem is the DHS secretary. Todd Lyons runs ICE, which oversees ERO, enforcement removal operations. So a lot of these arrests are under him. He says, we don't care if people have no criminal history. And Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, has said undocumented equals criminal. So this is their position, right? All of us are over here saying more than 70% of the people who have been deported are not criminals. All of these people being arrested and separated from their families and tortured in these prison camps are not criminals. Hello, you told us you were going after the criminals. Their response to that is undocumented equals criminal. Even if someone entered legally or they're in some legal process, that still equals criminal in their minds, and they are going hard on that line. So that's, I don't have words. That just is their interpretations are very aggressive and very wild. And the courts are just barely, I'm just thinking of Hodor. Remember the hold the door from Game of Thrones? It's like those are the federal courts right now. I don't remember that storyline very well, but I remember he was holding the door against something really, really bad and could barely make it happen. So that's what came to my mind. There's a new policy, ICE memo, no bond hearings for people who entered the country without legal status. So this, again, is another aggressive interpretation and departure from established law and precedent. So for years and decades, people who entered the country without legal status still qualify for bond. And the whole thing in a bond hearing is you have to submit evidence before a judge that you're not a danger to the community and you're not a flight risk. So you bring letters from your employer, or your spouse, or your sick kid, and your mortgage statement, all of these things that show that this person warrants release on bond. And in a bond case, there's no, you don't pay a percentage like you do in criminal. You pay the full amount. So if a judge says $10,000 bond, you pay the $10K. So the bond system has been established and functional, right, for a long, long time. Well, the Trump administration has just come in and said, you know what, we think the vast majority of all the people being detained are not eligible for bond anymore. This is their interpretation and their argument, and it's up to the judges to make a decision, but each judge is going to decide differently. Meanwhile, the detention centers are full to the brim, to the point where people are being left in buses for 24 hours. Women are going to the bathroom in front of men. It's horrific what's happening in these detention centers. And one might think that the solution to that is to release people who, are not a flight risk and not a danger to the community. Let them go before the judge and let them argue for release, but they're doing the opposite. So they don't care, actually, of course, about human rights or practicality, which we know that's not a surprise to anybody. In other news, USCIS is raising certain fees. And what is today? Is today the 20? Yeah, it goes into effect today. So just know, if you're working with a lawyer, including with our law firm, we've sent out blanket messages to clients. Hey, these fees are increasing. You're going to hear from us. These are immediate application fees. It's not like usually when there's a fee hike, which happens every few years, they announce it and they give us a period of time to prepare and file a bunch of applications under the pre-existing fees. We didn't get that this time. So it's like, boom, new fees, you got to pay them. So just know you're going to be hearing from lawyers, and double check before you file anything. What's the fee? Am I using the right form? Always check that before you mail anything to immigration, because the Trump administration doesn't give you a grace period. They don't like publish a new form or have a new fee and say, we're going to let this apply in 60 days so that the people who are already working on their case can submit what they have. No, they're not doing that. So you need to check it before you mail anything. Detention center conditions. I've talked to you guys about this already. There's some reports coming out of Florida where men are being forced to have their hands behind their back and kneel on the ground and eat their food out of the plates, without their hands. Women and men are being put together, and the women are having to use the toilet in an open room in front of men. People are being left in buses for, hours and hours with the toilets not working. It's really, really, really bad. I think we'll see definitely some litigation coming out of that, but the detention conditions are really bad. Of course, people are in Alligator Alcatraz. We've talked about that. And then we have had some people released from CCOT. There was a swap from Venezuela. So some Venezuelans have gone back to Venezuela. The asylum seeker, Andre Hernandez Romero, he was the hairdresser, the gay hairdresser. He had a lot of press coverage on him. He was returned and then immediately deported. So of course there's concerns about due process in his case. So there you have it. Those are the news updates. And one of these days I'll be able to say oh, good news, good news, good news. But it's going to be probably a little bit. So anyway, let me get to your questions. Thank you. I see them coming in. Keep them coming. I'll be answering your questions live. Excuse me. Here we go. Chispa de Bomba. Instagram. I was told someone formerly under humanitarian parole that has now filed an I-485 and I-765 can begin working with just the biometrics red stamp on the 765. Is that true? No, what we need to do is look at what type of humanitarian parole was. Typically what happens is when someone has parole, TPS, pending adjustment, what have you, if the underlying program gets canceled, then that person can still use their work permit unless that actually gets revoked. But it's not always that way. It sort of depends on the announcement. I would check the website under the parole program. And then technically, when you do a work permit application, unless it's a renewal, if it's a new application, it doesn't work. It doesn't click in until you get the actual work permit in hand. But also, if you file for an adjustment of status under family, working without permission is not a prohibition against getting legal status. So if you were to work in the period of time, it might not affect your overall eligibility. Not that I'm recommending that someone work without permission, but just it doesn't always prohibit you from getting legal status in the future. Instagram, Mandy Joy. My children were adopted from an African country and came here on visas and officially adopted in the United States. They have Social Security and U.S. passports. Do I need to get a certificate of citizenship also? Mandy, that's it depends on your sort of level of risk tolerance. I think in many instances, a U.S. passport is fine. The U.S. passport is issued by the Department of State. That's one U.S. agency, DOS. The certificate of citizenship is issued by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is under the Department of Homeland Security. So if you were to get the certificate of citizenship and the passport, you would have both DHS and DOS recognizing the U.S. citizenship of your children. That is the safest possible bet. And in a time like this, I think it certainly would make sense for you to cover all your bases. Historically, I would have said, I think a passport is enough. So, I think you have to decide, like, do I want to go through the payment of the filing fee and doing all of that for the extra protection for the kiddos? So I got a frog in my throat this morning. Sorry, guys. I know that's annoying. We'll see if the coffee will help. Usually what you need is water, but I bet this will help a little bit. Okay, next question. My spouse filed an I-130, but we separated. Can I still adjust status? So no, you can't adjust status under the marriage if you are separated unless there were cruelty in the marriage. So VAWA is the Violence Against Women Act. It says that an immigrant who is married to a citizen or a permanent resident, married, separated, or divorced within the last 2 years, if you've been subjected to cruelty in the marriage, you can file for the green card, even if you're not together anymore. Cruelty does not mean physical violence, by the way, necessarily. Of course, physical violence is cruelty, but there's also a lot, there's this power and control wheel in the domestic violence world, and it talks about all the ways that there exists violence or domestic violence or controlling behavior in a relationship. It can look like telling your spouse when they can go out, giving them a curfew, telling them who they can talk to, telling them how they can spend their money, taking the money that they're earning from their work. Thank you so much. I got water. Thank you. Sexual violence, right? Requiring certain sex acts in a relationship, emotional abuse, yelling, name calling, could be cheating in some instances. One thing that's really, really common in these relationships is threats about immigration status. So if you are an immigrant and you're in a relationship with a U.S. citizen, and one time they have even uttered something about getting you deported or calling ICE, that's emotional abuse, and that's cruelty in a relationship. And you could probably do a VAWA case. So in this question, this person filed an I-130, but they've separated. I would definitely want to consult with you about VAWA in the relationship. And one of the things about VAWA is that's a humanitarian case. We've talked about this before. Humanitarian cases contain a lot more flexibility, a lot more waivers. So sometimes if you can't adjust status in a family-based case or an employment-based case, you can in a humanitarian case because they're so much more flexible. So sometimes it's actually better to be in a humanitarian type case than one of the other ones. And lots of people are like, I don't want to, think of myself that way as a victim. Totally understand. And pragmatic approach to immigration, maybe that's the better outcome for you. And everything's confidential. There's a part, it's I think it's 8 USC 1367 that says once somebody has filed for VAWA, ICE cannot give or receive information about that person. So that's another protection that if somebody's like, I'm worried, what if I file and then he calls immigration on me? You can say, well, they're not allowed to even receive that phone call under statute, right? And that's something that Congress passed, and the president can't change a law that Congress passed on his own. Okay. Let's see. I have DACA and I was told I can apply for advanced parole. Is that true? Yes, you can still do advanced parole under DACA. Here's why you would do advanced parole with DACA. So advanced parole is a way to be able to travel, right, abroad when you have DACA. And you can get advanced parole for humanitarian reasons, employment reasons, or educational reasons. So educational is like a study abroad program. Employment is, this big conference out of the country that your company wants to send you to. Humanitarian is, you've got a sick aunt and she's in the hospital, or your grandfather is passing away, etc. So these are all reasons about how you could get an advance parole permission to travel and re-enter. But let's say you entered the country without legal status originally, and maybe you marry a U.S. citizen, you won't be able to adjust status under current systems. But if you left and came in under advance parole, you can adjust status. So that's why if you are a dreamer and you're in a relationship with a U.S. citizen and you entered the country without legal status, that's why you would do advance parole. And I would say it is worth it still doing that. We are seeing advance parole get into the country, right? So if you have DACA and you do advance parole, people are getting back in. This is another DACA question. Will they begin processing initial applications now? They're receiving initial applications. They're not processing them yet. DACA initial is legal. It's being allowed. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has ordered that. So yes, you can file your DACA initials. I think that that's a good idea, but they're not being processed yet. They should be soon. I've never had status in the United States, but my partner is a permanent resident. Can they help me? Yes. So they can file an I-130 for you if you're married. You say partner, so I don't know if you guys are married or not, but in the state of Texas, and in many other states, they have common law marriage, or informal marriage, which means you don't have to have a certificate of marriage to be married legally. In Texas, you only have to live together and decide to be married, to be married legally. And then you can do things to, formalize it. Like you could go to the county and register your informal marriage. That's easy. You can file your taxes together. So there's lots of ways to marry without like going through the standard procedure. And if so, let's say you marry your partner who's a permanent resident, that they can file an I-130 for you. And then you have to wait for your priority date, which is about 2 years right now. I would want to know if they can become U.S. citizens at the same time. If your partner who's a permanent resident is eligible for U.S. citizenship. I do think that anybody who is a permanent resident should be pursuing citizenship when you're eligible because of everything that's going on right now. Number one, if you file for citizenship now, you're going to be able to vote in the midterms. And needless to say, real important election coming up next year, guys. So please start thinking about that now, registering to vote. But also, if you're a citizen, you can't be deported. You can't lose your status. You can leave the country for as long as you want and not lose your status. What if you decide you want to go elsewhere and come back when Trump is no longer the president? You can do that when you're a citizen. You can't do that when you're a permanent resident. You can petition for more relatives. You don't get deported. It's just a better, more protective status. And I really recommend that anyone who's eligible for citizenship pursue it right now. It's super duper important. So yes, your husband who's a permanent resident partner, can help you. And I might want to see if we can have that person be a U.S. citizen. I qualify for DACA, but I never applied. Can I still apply now? Yes, you can apply now. DACA initials are being accepted again after all these years. And this is why I would recommend filing, because I know you know the pain of being a person who qualified and didn't apply in time. And so you lost out on all of those years of work permission because you didn't get your application in before it was blocked. So I don't have to tell you what the miss of that, how that has impacted your life. That. So now we're in another window of eligibility for DACA initial, and my recommendation is to take advantage of it. I filed for asylum late, more than a year after entering. Will it still be accepted? Yes, you can still file your asylum application more than a year after you enter, but you're probably not going to get asylum. It's really hard. You're probably going to get something called withholding of removal, which is another type of protection like asylum. But, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, for example, had withholding. So it's not as protective. I mean, what happened to him was totally illegal. But you can't be deported to the country from which you seek protection when you have withholding of removal. But you do have to renew your work permit every year, and it doesn't protect you like asylum does. TikTok, Seneca Land. It's good to see you again. Thanks for being here. If I get detained and have everything except a U.S. citizen dies, do I get bond denied? I've been here since I was 11. I get detained, have everything except U.S. citizen dies. U.S. citizenship. Okay. Okay. Sorry. um, if I get detained and have everything except U.S. citizenship, do I get bond denied? I've been here since I was 11. So right now, if you entered when you were 11, if you entered without permission, like either somebody drove you across the bridge with fake documents or you crossed the river, the desert with your family, ICE is going to make the argument that you are not eligible for bond, right? But the judges are not totally accepting that argument. That's just an argument that ICE is making in court. It's up to the judge. So the judge, I mean, if you've been here since you were 11, my guess is that the judge would grant you a bond. That would be my guess. But I don't know a lot about you or your background or whether you have legal status now, like DACA, whether you have a criminal history. All of those things are relevant in a bond case, but I think you would be eligible for bond. Javier Cru, this is the first time I've seen your name. Thanks for being here. My dad is super sick. I'm sorry. And I'm waiting for a green card. We applied last September. My new permit card. Okay, so are you getting status, Javier, through your dad? Tell me more about what process you're in the middle of and what your question is. I'd be happy to help you. Seneca Land, U.S. citizen ties. Got it. Like family members. If you don't have U.S. citizen family members, you don't necessarily need that to get a bond. You have to show you're not a flight risk and you're not a danger to the community. So flight risk could be family relatives in the U.S. with legal status, but it also could be your job, your volunteer history, your church, your house. There's lots of other ways. Can you travel to, Javier, can you travel to Honduras to see your dad? Tell me what process you're in, Javier, because I see you applied last September for your new permit card. Does that mean you have a green card and you applied to renew it last September? Tell me what kind of card you have. Someone says, I have TPS from Venezuela. Can I apply for a green card through my U.S. citizen spouse? Yes, you can and you should, because TPS is going away. And you're married to a U.S. citizen, so you should definitely pursue other relief ASAP. We've got 5 minutes left, guys, so come on, get your questions in so I can get them answered before we wrap up, and then I got to go get on the bus, get on the road, on the bus, and I'll take you with me. I'll be showing you videos. It's going to be such an adventure. It already has been. I entered with parole and married a green card holder. Can I get a work permit? No. You can only get a work permit or adjust status if you are the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, so the spouse of a U.S. citizen. So your spouse who has a green card has to become a citizen in order for you to get a work permit. So I would recommend that your spouse pursue citizenship. I had DACA, but I lost it after a DWI. Yeah, that's something about DACA, guys, that not a lot of people know. DACA is the one program within the immigration system that doesn't allow you to have a DWI. And so lots of dreamers have lost their DACA status because of DWIs. So just something to note. Can I get it back or apply for something else? You can't get it back, but you might be able to apply for something else. So we should chat. Let's have a consult. My parent filed an I-130 for me, but I aged out. Do I still qualify? No. Well, yes, you do qualify, but you have to wait in the new wait time, which is really, really long for adult children. I want to know when they applied for you, whether it was a long time, like whether we could do 245I, but unfortunately, well, and also if your parent was a citizen, your age was frozen. So there's lots of factors to consider and discuss. We need a consultation. I had voluntary departure years ago, but never left. What can I do now? So you definitely are at risk, because when you have voluntary departure, you don't leave, it converts to a removal order. So you have a final removal order over you. We should discuss to see if there's an option for reopening and terminating, but definitely you are at risk and on the list for ICE to go pursue. Javier, is this the Javier? Are you the one? Okay. So you have the U visa. Can I travel with my new permit card and have advanced parole? Okay, Javier. Only if you actually have the U visa can you leave the country and come back in. If you have like deferred action or prima facie work permit, but like bona fide, prima facie, deferred action, whatever, that preliminary work permit before the U visa is approved, you're not authorized to travel. And it's actually taking about 9 years to get the full U visa. So if you're in year 1 through 9, you probably don't have permission to travel. You can, if your dad is super duper sick, I have heard of people getting a special advance parole. You would want to work with the Honduran embassy to help you on that. I think it's risky to go that route. I understand your dad's sick, you want to go see him, and it may be more important to you to do that than to maintain your status here in this country. Totally respect and understand that. If you were to do it, if you don't have the U visa yet, I would refer you to the Honduran embassy. The Mexican consulate has like a protection department. They probably have something like that in the Honduran embassy, and ask them if they can help you apply for an advance parole to go visit your dad. If you already have the U visa, it's easier. You can definitely leave. The issue is that you have to apply through the U.S. embassy in Honduras before coming back. So you don't just like leave and come back. You have to get permission to come back, and it's complicated. But that, I would say, for sure worth the complication of being able to see your dad. If you don't have the U visa yet, I don't know that it's secure that you would be able to come back in. Okay, I see one last question coming in. I'm going to answer it. My husband is an LPR, valid for 10 years. He now has 3 legal entries, but he was arrested in 2021, which started the process, and he won his case. He wants to visit family, but I'm worried. Okay, Jenny, when you say he was arrested in 2021, which started the process, and he won his case, I want to know what process and what case. Like, did he get put in removal proceedings and he won the removal proceedings? I also am thinking that maybe, well, he can't get, are you a U.S. citizen? If you're a U.S. citizen, he might be eligible for citizenship. You have to have good moral character for 5 years if you're not married to a U.S. citizen, and for 3 years if you are married to a U.S. citizen. So he might be eligible to go for citizenship, and then he'd be way safe to travel. But I think, Jenny, we should have a consultation about your husband. So send me a DM and we'll take a look. Okay, Seneca Land, this is the last question. Thanks, guys. Can CBP tell your nationality just by running your license plate? I have no criminal history. I don't know. The truth is they're accessing so many databases right now. Like, they're accessing Medicaid records and insurance records and tax records. They are not respecting people's privacy at all. So if they were able to access the state's public safety records, they could probably get your nationality through there. And so I would guess that, for example, the state of Texas would give CBP access to their records. I would imagine that that would be a hell yes from Greg Abbott. So yeah, I think so. And I think that, I mean, we know they're doing racial profiling and all that. You got to be really careful driving around. Same, what can you do? Consult with a lawyer, find out if you're eligible for status, have a safety plan, be really cautious, know where you are and what the relationship is like between local law enforcement and ICE in your area. Inform, educate, prepare. Inform, educate, prepare. That's what we got to do right now. Oh, fun. I like this action item. Okay, so I've been thinking a lot lately about local politics and state politics. There's a lot cooking. The legislature is in special session right now trying to redistrict. When we just had, 130 people die in floods without warning. It's just so absurd. So absurd. But in any event, let's do this action item of the week. Let's get a little bit more involved locally. Find out who your city council representative is, and find out who your state representative is, and be able to, like, if somebody stops you on the street and says, hey, what's your state rep? What district are you in? Be able to know that answer and know a little bit about who represents you and what they stand for, and whether you're aligned with them or not. We got elections coming up. A lot of primaries are cooking right now. So we're going to have to start making some decisions as an electorate. And so being involved on the local and state level is as important as the federal level. So that's our action item of the week. Just look it up. Just Google it. Who is my state rep? Who is my city council rep? It's that easy. And then you'll have that knowledge in your brain. And then when you see a sign or you see something on social media, you'll connect the dots, and it just starts the wheels turning from a civic participation perspective. So thanks, guys. I'm going to go get on the bus. So check out El Bus Sin Fronteras. This is your other action tip of the week. Go to El Bus Sin Fronteras on Instagram and follow us. We'll be going on an epic adventure starting right now. Thanks for being here with me. I'll see you Thursday.